here in the chat. And you can follow along with the slide deck. So for everybody who is just joining us, and those of you who have been here, my name is Christina Carnes. I am an instructional coach on the digital learning team of BPS Tech. I'm joined today by my colleague, Casey Court. She will be facilitating the chat portion today. So if you have any questions as I'm going through, or if you need me to stop or slow down or even speed up, just let us know in the chat, and Casey will stop me and let me know, hey, Christina, can you go back to that? And then I also build in time where I'll say, hey, Casey, is there anything I need to know about in the chat? And then I'll also ask if anybody has any questions. So for somebody who may not have the capability to type in the chat, that would be a good time to unmute yourself and to ask questions. All right, thank you everybody for responding in the chat, for letting us know how familiar you are with these Google tools, as well as introducing yourself. That's really helpful, so thank you. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with everybody in just a moment. When I share my screen is going to sort of take over your screen. So if you want to be able to look at other tabs or to follow along with the slide deck presentation, because I will be asking you to look at the slide deck. You don't really have to click into it, but I'll be asking you to look at it at certain points today. So what I would like you to do is, as soon as my screen completely takes over yours, you can double click on my screen or click it and press the escape button at the top left-hand corner of your keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all now. All right, get stuff moved out of the way. So now you have my screen sort of taking over yours. This would be the time where you would double click or click and then press the escape button to make my screen a little bit smaller so that you can access other things besides my screen during this time. So this webinar is being recorded. So what will happen is at the end, I will send you an email with a copy of the recording from today, as well as the slide deck. And anything that I reference, I will make sure it goes into either the slide deck or my email to everybody after. We do have an attendance/feedback form that you will be getting at the end today. And that feedback form is how you will get your credit for having an hour. So this does count as 1 hour toward the 5 hours required by the MOU. We just ask that you fill out the feedback form and complete 2 of the response questions. Also, I believe everybody has their names here, so that's all good. And everybody should have, at this point, introduced themselves in that chat window. So today we are going to be going over 3 Google tools. I'm going to be spending most of our time today in Drive and Docs. A couple of reasons for this. One is everything that I'm doing in Drive and Docs that has to do with sharing or some of the basic features, those are going to look the same across any of the Google apps that we go over. So a lot of that will be sort of redundant by the time I get to slides. The other piece is with slides, we talked as a team when we took into consideration some feedback that we've gotten from our feedback forum, and we will, excuse me, I'm so sorry. We will be doing a Go Slow Slides webinar offered at 9 a.m. on the 12th. So that should, hopefully kind of supplement the work that we're going to do today. But I'll make sure I go into detail because I did see that people were wanted to look at slides. All right, So we're going to dive right in today into Google Drive. So Google Drive is going to be the very first one that we're going to do. So let me see. All right, so we're going to go into Google Drive, and there's a few different ways that you can get into Google Drive. The first way is, and this is the way that I prefer, is through my Google Chrome browser. So when I'm logged into Google Chrome and I'm using this browser, I want to make sure that I'm logged in with my Boston Public Schools email address. And I can tell that I'm logged in from my Boston Public Schools email address because I can see my little picture over here. It might have your initials there depending on your settings. And I can tell that I am signed in with my Boston Public Schools. Now, what that means is that when I create a new window, it's going to give me my own sort of Google Chrome home screen here. And this is tailored specifically to me because I am logged in. So these are, some of the, different sites that I visit often, also a direct link to my Gmail. But what's really important is this thing that we call the waffle over here. And when I click on that, I can see all of the Google apps that are available to me from the, they call it Google for Education. And that is something that you automatically have through your Boston Public Schools account. And so you can see here that these are all the different apps. So today we're going to be focusing on Drive first. This is a nice way to get into your Google Drive. You can also get into any of those Google apps through any place that you see the waffle. So if you're in your mail, for example, the waffle will come up and you can click on it there. You can also get into Google Drive through Clever as well, if that's something that you do. Okay. So now I'm in my Drive. And in my Drive, I'm going to go through some of the main features here. The very first feature I want to point out to you is this plus sign with the new. This is something that we are going to be coming back to over and over again during this session. When I click on this, it gives me options to create a new folder, to upload a folder or a file from my computer, and then to make new Google Doc. I can make a new blank document or from a template for sheets and slides, and actually for any of the Google tools and Google apps that are available. The next place is My Drive. So I have my settings a little bit more advanced so that it goes directly to my priority tab. And I will go over the priority tab, but when you log into Drive, you are going to be logging in and it'll come right to this My Drive place. At the top here, you're going to see Quick Access. So Quick Access is Google uses all the data that you provide to it day in and day out to kind of make life a little bit easier and to anticipate what it is that you may want to open up next. Sometimes they're so spot on, it's like kind of scary, but it will choose things for you to see up at the top under Quick Access. It might be because you open it frequently. It might be because you opened it or edited something yesterday, or just in the past week. And then also if there's people that you work with on a regular basis or that you are in meetings with. So like, for example, I've been in meetings before where it's on my Google Calendar that there is a meeting happening with a certain person. And when I get to that meeting and I open up my Drive, it tells me, oh, this person who you have a meeting with just opened up this document. Do you want to open up this document too? And that's where you can find it in Quick Access. So it is a kind of nice piece here. And that's the same thing really in your priority tab as well. It uses that same sort of information to decide what should be priority for you. Down here, we have folders. And the folders are a nice way for you to organize all of the files that come into your Google Drive. And we all know that Google Drive can kind of get overloaded at times because everybody's always sharing something with you, asking you to open it. And every time you do that, you open up a Google Doc or a slide or something shared with you, it all just like kind of gets dumped into your drive. And so this is a nice way for you to organize those files. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create a new folder. I'm going to go up to this plus sign with the new, and I'm going to add a new folder. I'm going to title my folder Webinar Folder 5 and hit create. So I can see that this is in alphabetical order and that my new Webinar Folder 5 is now living here with my other folders. If I double click to go into this folder, I can see here that right now I don't have any files. If I did have files, they would show up here. When I click here on Webinar Folder 5, anytime I see this little down arrow, that means, and this is for all Google apps, that means that there are more options for me. So you can actually create a folder within a folder if you want to make things even more organized. This is the really important piece, is the sharing feature. So I'm going to click on share. And you have two options for how you can share any folder that you create in Google Drive. You can share it by a link. So what would happen is I could choose that I want anybody with the link that I have right here that I can copy to my clipboard. And anybody I share this with can edit any document that gets put into this folder automatically. So that's something to be aware of. So say that one more time. If I share this with somebody and I give them the option to edit, that means that any file that I put into this folder, those people who I've shared this folder with have access to edit if I choose this. I can also give them access just to view. Same thing here. If I wanted to invite somebody by name instead of using a link, and I invite somebody by name, and I can choose that they can organize, add, and edit this folder, or they can view it only. Again, whatever I choose, the person I share it with has full access to every single file that goes into this folder. And that's not a bad thing. It's great for collaboration on your teams if you guys are working in the same documents. It's just something to be aware of. So I'm going to share this with Casey. Sorry, Casey, I shouldn't have notified you. You'll get an email. And now you can see that this right here is telling me that there is link sharing on, that there are other people who have access to this folder. All right, we're going to go back out to my drive. So let me see if there's anything else. Here, you can move it, this folder into another folder if you wanted to. And you can change the color here of the folder if you'd like. Really, the important piece is the sharing part. That's what you'll use most. All right, so now we have this here. And you can see, oh dear, my internet connection is unstable. All right. So you can see now that I have this folder, and you can see the little person inside of the folder now, whereas like one like this doesn't have that. That means that it is shared with other people. This folder is now shared with others, and I can tell that because it has a little person inside. All right. Now, underneath here, we have all of your files. These are done in alphabetical order. And these are files that have been shared with you, that you've opened, that you've created. Sometimes that are just like kind of live there because they're were created by somebody else in Boston Public Schools. And they put on, some like really broad sharing permissions. So you're going to definitely have a lot of stuff in your drive. And Google knows that. And so what they do is they give you this option to have priority, also shared with me, recent, and starred. So shared with me, I'm sure we've all been in a meeting before and someone was like, oh yeah, I shared the agenda with you like yesterday or a week ago. I shared it with you like last week. And you're like, okay, trying to find that in the whole mess of your drive and all those files can be a challenge. So you have a couple options. You can search in your drive, or you can go to shared with me. And what's really nice about shared with me is, one, it also gives you that quick access, but two, it's done by date, which is nice. Because anything that's shared with you, if someone says, I shared it with you last week, you can scroll down and you can see when something was shared with you, which is really nice. Also, you have the option for the recent tab. I used this one probably the most before they came out with priority. And this is also done by date. So stuff that you worked on today is going to be right here. Something that you worked on yesterday is going to be there, which is nice. You can also choose to star certain documents. And the way that you do that is you can right click on the document and hit star. So this one is already starred, so it's saying removed, but you'll see an option to star. And then that will live in this folder here. Lastly, we have the priority tab. The priority tab here, it's that same sort of idea that Google is sort of following along with what you're doing and giving you suggestions for stuff that you may want to open. You can also create these workspaces where you would give it a title, and then you can put in specific documents into the space for easy access. Okay, I'm going to pause now to see if there are any questions in the chat, if anybody has anything that they want me to review or go over.
How did you create these workspaces? I missed that part.
Sure. So I'm in the priority tab.
Right.
And it says workspaces here, and then you can create.
Okay, thank you.
Then you would title it. And then all you have to do is just choose files. And this gives you access to all of the files that you have in your drive. You can search for specific files. And then it's as easy as dragging and dropping into the workspace.
Okay, so I need the priority. It's inside priority is workspace.
It is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions in the chat, Casey, that I can answer?
Yes, I just had to unmute myself. This is an interesting question. Melissa asks, if you have a folder with 10 different documents, if you share the folder but only want that person to be able to edit 5 of those documents, can you do that? Or can they automatically edit all 10?
Automatically, they'll be able to edit all 10. You would have to share it. I wouldn't share the folder in that case. I would share the individual documents. Those 5 individual documents, that's what I would share. I would not share the whole folder.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, team shared drives. That's not something I'm going to go over today. Those get really funky. If you've used it and you like it, that's awesome. I've used them, and there's really strange permissions that happen in shared drives. And so that's a little bit more advanced and a little bit more in detail. I can share in the follow-up email, like some help videos for shared drives. But I would say, for like the basics, just thinking about either sharing individual documents or folders for now. Are there any other questions I can? Will the starred file still live in the shared file? Yes. Yep. So anytime you star anything or move stuff around, it's still going to live in your big My Drive. And if it's been shared with you, it's going to stay in shared with you. So you would just be able to find it multiple places. Think of it as like it's tagged as shared with me and it's tagged as starred. So it's going to live in both places. And then how do you make something priority? So that's a great question. The only way that you can make something priority is if you wanted to put it in your workspaces and it would live on this priority page. The rest of it is sort of done by Google. So it's mostly going to be things that are prioritized by either who is currently in the document and when you have like edited or opened it. So it's like a mix of recent and like something that Google is anticipating that you you might need. So it's sort of like a mix between that recent and here this piece when it first comes up, the quick access.
Thanks, Christine. And there's a follow-up in the chat to Melissa's question. She followed up with, if you want to save as a document that is editable in the folder, do you just copy and will that allow it to be only editable by you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that we'll definitely cover a little bit more in depth when we get into docs. So I'll be able to sort of show that to you. But the short answer is, yeah, when you make a copy, it'll just be for you. Great question. And I'll make sure I go over that visually as well. All right, the last piece I want to go over with everybody is how to take documents that you have that are living on your computer. So like these would be your Microsoft Word documents or your PowerPoint that aren't Google Docs. And like I know for me, when I switched over to Google Drive, and I wanted, you know, a lot of my things to be collaborative for my students and for my students to be able to edit them through Google Classroom and such, I had to move over a lot of things that I had created in like a Word document or a PowerPoint. And now I want, you know, those were the things that I was maybe printing out before and having students write on. Now I want them to, you know, work on them and be able to edit them on the computer. So I need to transfer it into a Google Doc, because with Google Classroom, Google Drive, Google Docs, they all work really nicely together. If you brought in a Word document into your Google Classroom, you lose the option of being able to make a copy for every student, so that students would not be able to edit easily into a Word document. It gets very, very complicated. So an easy way to sort of avoid that is to just take any of the Word documents that you have that you want to use in Google Classroom and just convert it to a Google Doc. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So what you're going to do is go to this plus sign new. Told you we spent a lot of time there. And you're going to go to File, Upload. So now this is going to pull from your computer. Casey, can you just confirm that you see this pop up? Okay.
Sorry.
Awesome. So no, I was like, I have the two screens going, so I'm like looking at this one and you're over there. So I'm gonna go into, let me see, downloads here. I'm gonna find a PDF, or sorry, a Word document. I'm gonna find a Word document. Okay. The way that I know that this is a Word document is because I see this little W here. This is actually really important to know the difference between. It's going to come up again once we get this into the drive. So the Word document had that little W. It's teeny, teeny, tiny there. But when you click on it, I can also see that this is a Microsoft Word doc and it has this extension doc, .docx. So I know that this is a Word document. So now I want to open up this Word document in my Google Drive. So what's going to happen is it's going to upload it from my computer into my Google Drive. Now you can see this little W, this is still living in here as a Word document. So even though it's in my drive, it's still formatted as a Word doc. So I'm going to click on it. And when I click on this document, it's going to ask me what I want to open it with. Because I'm in Google, I'm not in Microsoft Word. So I have to make a choice here. And you're going to want to choose Google Docs. So now I'm going to open up this document with Google Docs. Once I do that, and it's open with Google Docs, I'm going to pay attention to see what the extension is in the title in just a moment. So give it a moment to load. Of course, I picked like probably the biggest document. So it is taking a moment. Okay, so you can still see that it is here as a .docx, and it's going to come up here too in a second. Here we go. And so sometimes this does happen with like really kind of complicated ones. And of course, I picked one that was super complicated. Some word features can't be displayed. So that happens very rarely. This is a very specifically formatted document with some images. So that's why that's not a typical message that you're going to get. But you can see here that this is now as a docx. So this still isn't a Google Doc. So the last thing I want to do is I'm going to go to File, Save as Google Docs. When I do that, it's going to open up a new tab, and it's going to open this up as a Google Doc. So now you'll notice it doesn't have that docx anymore on the end of it. This is a true Google Doc. All right. So now this one piece that is very important that I show you. So I'm going to now go and search for this document. So now let's say I'm thinking about, okay, I want to use this, make a copy for each student and give it to my students in Google Classroom. And so you get to make a choice here. So I'm going to search for it. So you'll see that now there are 2 copies of this document. One has the little W. The other has the symbol, and I'll show you that symbol for Google Docs. So this is important to know because they look so similar. I've seen people just, you know, they're throwing up something on Google Classroom and they click on, you know, just this one because it looks like, you know, it's in their drive, but instead it's still formatted as a Word document, and that those things, they don't talk to each other, they don't work nicely together. So you want to make sure you're choosing the one that is the Google Doc. In fact, I would make the recommendation that once you've converted it to a Google Doc, that you just get rid of this one. Put it in your trash. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is if you right-click on a mouse or use 2 fingers on your trackpad on your laptop. 2-finger tap or right-click on your mouse. And then here I can remove it and put it in the trash. I can also drag it right here into trash as well. So it's up to you what you're more comfortable with. And so now this is nice and clean. It's living here as only a Google Doc, and I know I'm not going to make any mistakes about you know, what the formatting is if I go to put it in to share it with Google Classroom. All right. So now I'm going to give you guys a challenge. This piece right here is actually for you on your own if you want to try it out after this and do a scavenger hunt. And then, you know, you can always email me and ask me any questions if you get stuck while you're doing the scavenger hunt. So each slide has a scavenger hunt option for you to complete later on after the session. But I am going to ask people to complete this challenge right now. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to open up your own Google Drive. create a new folder in my drive, and then share your folder with me, and I'll put my email address in the chat as well. And I'm going to give people about 5 minutes to complete this. If we need more time, I'll do just kind of like a dipsticking check-in with everybody. And if you need more time, you can have it. But I want everybody to, thank you, Casey, for putting my email in there. I want everybody to have an opportunity to practice some of these things. So I'll put 5 minutes on the clock and give everybody the opportunity to complete this challenge. Feel free to put any questions you have in the chat.
Do we name the new folder our name?
You can name it anything you want.
Oh, okay.
So Judith, great question. To access your own screen, you can double click on my screen and it'll make my screen smaller. Or you can click on my screen and press the escape button on the top left-hand corner of your keyboard. Carla, it is totally fine if you don't complete the task now, and totally up to you what you want to do. If this is helpful because you're watching me go through the steps and you find it to be helpful, then absolutely, by all means, stick around. If not, come back another time. We'd always love to see you. Totally up to you. A quick little check-in at this point. If you're all done or if you're almost done, just put that in the chat. Just let us know if you've completed the task or if you need a couple minutes. And I am going to be able to see who shared with me by clicking on that Share With Me tab.
Can you tell me your name one more time so I can get the right one?
Sure, absolutely. It is Christina Carnes, C. Carnes. All right, we'll give about 1 more minute and then get going with Google Docs. Okay, so today in Google Docs, we're going to go over some management features as well as some things that you can insert and add into your Google Doc. So there are a few ways for you to be able to get into Google Docs. The first way is you can go in through your Drive. This is my preferred way. I don't know why. I think it's just nice that I have the option to see everything in my Drive when I do it. And so I always go to my Drive and then click on this plus sign new, and then Google Docs. It gives me two options. I can either create a blank document or from a template. Most of the time with Docs, I just go for the blank document. The other way that you can log into Google Docs, you can always go in through Clever, through the BPS backpack, or I can make a new tab, like I showed you earlier for Drive, and I can go to that waffle, the Google Apps waffle, and I can click on Docs, and that's another easy way to get in there. Okay, so I have this brand new Google Doc. I'm going to start typing my first sentence. And now I'm thinking, oh wait, I didn't name my document yet. Well, when I go to click into this document, it's going to automatically name it Christina's first document because that was sort of the first sentence that I wrote. That is just a little feature that it has. So like if you have a title or something, it just like easily, all I did was click into here and it automatically made it then that name. But I can easily click on here at any point in time without having to do any saves or anything like that. I can click in here and I can change it to and I can do that. I can change that at any point in time. Here is a nice, easy way to start. So if this is a document you know you're going to be working with a lot, then you may want to star your document, and you can do that from here. And then here is where you can move it into a specific folder. So it's automatically, because you created it, it's automatically going to be saved forever in My Drive. You don't ever have to do any save as or save or anything. Just every time you make a change, it automatically in real time gets saved to your Drive because you created the document. But you can also move the document into a folder. So I'm going to choose the folder that we looked at earlier today. When I do that, and I hit move, it's going to say this item will be visible to anyone who can see webinar folder 5. Also, that same thing where if I give them permission to edit anything in there, then anybody who has access to webinar folder 5 is also going to be able to edit and access this document too. I can move that in there. Gives me just a little update that I did that. Now, let's say I wanted to share it with an individual. So not just, all the people who have access, let's say, to a specific folder, but I want to share it with just one person, and just this one doc with one person. Or I could do multiple people with this as well, but just this one doc. Here I have those two options again. One is anybody at Boston Public Schools can edit, comment, view. I can choose which option I want there with the link. So I copy that link right now and I put that in the chat and everybody clicked on it. Whatever edit access I gave you here is when you click on that link is what you'll see and what you'll have in there. So you can give people options to only comment, only make comments, or only view. So if they only view it, they can't type in the document at all. It's just like they're looking at it up on a screen. They can't interact with it. Can comment means more that they will have this like sort of option, and I'll show you where comments are, to make comments on the side that then you as the person who created the document can either accept or reject those comments and suggestions. or you can give them full access to edit. Also, you can share it with a specific person. Now you can see that without me doing anything, it automatically has been shared with Casey because I put it in that folder that Casey has access to. But if I wanted to share it with somebody else, I can start typing in their name here or their email address. And then here, with that little down arrow, I have those same three options: edit, comment, or review. And that'll go directly to them in their email address. Yes, that's a great question. You can always change your sharing permissions after the fact. So anytime, so like right now, this is already shared with Casey. I can go in, and especially for the link sharing, if I gave you a link and I gave you option to edit, and you clicked on the link, you can edit. If I went back in here and I said, actually, anybody with the link can only view, the next time you click on that link, you'll only have the option to view that document. All right. So I'm going to look at some of the features that are here. So one thing to be aware of is I have a pretty big screen going on over here, but let's say I have a whole bunch of stuff, or I have my screen teeny tiny or like half screen or something. You see over here, all like half of the stuff that was up here before went away. So before I had all these options, and now I have just half of those. The way I can see those options that disappeared is these three dots for more. And then it'll just make a second row of that down here. I can also change, a lot of this stuff is very similar to what you have seen previously in like Microsoft Word. So a lot of these things are very similar to that, like your page setup, your print, everything like that. Here's where you can make a copy. So that was a question earlier about the sharing settings. So right now this is shared with, however many people have access to whatever. But let's say I wanted to make some changes that I'm not quite ready for everybody to see yet, or I just don't want to share it with everybody else. If I make a copy, it's now clean, it's only mine, and I can start kind of from scratch on the sharing permissions if I go to make a copy at this point. All right. The next important difference here is insert. So there are a few options. Here you can insert images. You can go through it that same way, that we've done in the past, where you can, find something on the internet, save it to your computer, and then go into the program and upload it onto your computer, and that option is there for you if it's something that's already on your computer. But here, if you're going to go do a search anyway, because this is a web-based application, you have access to Google image search right on the side here. And the way I did that was insert, image, search the web. So I'm going to do some flowers. Search for flowers. There they are. I can click on these flowers and I can drag and drop, or I can click on the image I want, and it gives me this option to insert. Really? Well, I'm trying to, my internet is a little unstable, so that might be why. Let me try this one more time. Image, search the web. There we go. Maybe that one was just too big. And I swear, every other time I've done this, it does work. I promise. It just is for some reason taking a moment to download, but there it is. And then I can make it a little bit smaller if I need to. I can change how the text interacts with it. If the text goes around it, if it splits the text, then I have some options here for that. I can also insert tables, and it gives me this option to determine how many columns and how many rows I want to insert. And then a feature here that's important to think about is, let's say I wanted to get rid of 2 of these columns. What I have to do is I have to highlight those columns, and then I right click or 2 fingers on the trackpad, and I would delete those 2 columns from those options there. There's no real easy way to do that anywhere else, so I wanted to point that out to you. There's also the option to have special characters and equation characters for math. And then here in Tools. In Tools, you have a few options. You have your dictionary, spelling and grammar, word count, but there's also this piece of voice typing. So if I click on that right now, and I click into here, it's a nice accessibility feature. I just started talking, and it is now writing down everything that I'm saying. When I'm finished, I can say, this is the end of my sentence, period. And it adds a period. If I have a question and I want to put in a question mark, it'll put in the question mark for me when I say the word question mark. Same thing with exclamation point. I'm going to stop it. I will say that, you know, it's not perfect. None of these sort of speech to text are. So a nice, you know, if you're using this for accessibility with your students, to be able to say that they need to make sure that they're going through and checking in with their, with what they've written and what's kind of being said there. If you have an entire document that you wanted to translate, you can do translate document, and it opens it up as a new document and completely translates it into a whole bunch of languages. If you wanted to only translate, like, you know, a specific part, if you wanted your students to be able to sort of translate on the fly, there are these things called add-ons. Now, add-ons are something that you will then get from the Google store. Some are paid, most are free, but they are open source. So definitely check out the comments and to see how many people have downloaded and used them before. But there's one that I really like, is called Translate Plus. The way that you get an add-on is you go to add-ons, hit get add-ons, and search for it in the Google store. I'm going to show you what Translate Plus looks like because I think it's pretty cool. And I'll put in the link for Translate Plus for the Google store in my email as well. So like, let's say I wanted to take this paragraph, and this is a terrible paragraph, but say I take this paragraph, and it's going to auto detect my language, and I'm going to change it into, there's all these different options here. I'm just going to pick something, we'll change it into Greek. I highlight the paragraph or the sentences that I want, and I hit translate. It puts the translation here into this box, and then if I wanted to keep this highlighted, I can insert that translated text right here. And it works both ways. So if you have students who are typing in Spanish and they want to put their answers in English or vice versa, they can type in here and then translate and insert if they wanted to as well. Kind of a cool feature. And it's great for family communication too. Okay. That is everything I have for Google Docs right now. What I am going to do is I'm going to skip over our challenge right now because I want to share Google Slides with you guys. Just a couple of individual features that are in Slides that just to kind of get you familiar with Slides themselves. So that same process, I can go into my Drive, I can go to New, and I can go to Slides. I can also always get there through Clever or through the Waffle. So here I have my untitled, I'm sorry, there's actually a flying tree outside of my window. If anybody can see that, they're doing tree work and it's just floating above my window. That is a sight I didn't think I would see. So as you have this come up, anything that you put in here is going to automatically make it the title, but again, you can always change it. The themes here are going to change the background color of your slides as well as the font color and style. And you can always go into themes through here. And then looking at the format of your slide. So your title slide is always going to have this, but let's say I don't need a title slide. I can go right here to layout, and I can choose any format that I want. I can make it blank if I want to. I can also add new slides by pressing this plus button. When I do that, it's going to automatically give me this one size for slide 2. It's going to automatically give me this because this is the default. But I can always go in and change it to look like something else. And I do that through this layout piece. I can also press this little down arrow next to the new slide. And here I can also choose my layout. And you can always get rid of, if you don't like the 2 text boxes, or if you want to make them smaller or bigger, you still have those options. This is just sort of like a template piece. You can also do a background, which sometimes is kind of nice. So you can change the color of the background, or you can actually choose an image. You could even do a Google image search if you wanted to. You could do like a graphic organizer. I'm just like really just on the fly here, but I just want you to see what this could potentially look like. And then you could have your students put a text box here and start typing in their ideas. So that's a kind of cool feature, and I did that through background. That theme is here, and then the transition is just what it looks like when you go from one slide to another, very similar to PowerPoint. You can insert shapes, images, but what's really nice in slides 2 is the inserting a video feature that you don't get that option in Google Docs. So if you are trying to, share a video with your students and you don't necessarily want them like going through YouTube and the whole thing, you can actually insert a video from YouTube directly here. Search for whatever that you want, hit select, and then it puts that video in here, so when you're presenting it or when the students get it, they can click and watch the video right from here. They don't have to go in through YouTube, which is a nice feature as well. It's also nice if you're doing Google Classroom, instead of having to put like a link to a video, a link to an article, and it gets a little bit messy. You could create a presentation like this and put everything that you want the students to do right here on different slides. Add any links right in here. So like I could type in like use this link. I could highlight it. And then I can insert a link. I don't know, I'll just say like this. And then the students can just click right here. So the graphic organizer, honestly, all I did was just Google the words graphic organizer. I kind of just like on the fly did that. HyperDocs, that's a great question. HyperDocs, this is a HyperDoc. I mean, the fact that the students are able to interact with it, and if you make a copy for each student and there's links in it and there's videos, and maybe next to my video I want to add in a text box and ask my students to respond, that's really what makes it a HyperDoc, is just the ability to interact with it, give students some choices in what they're seeing. And we do have a couple of webinars about interactive documents and interactive slides, which go into way more detail about HyperDocs. Okay, I'm going to pause here. Casey just put in the calendar of upcoming webinars so that you can check that out. If you want more on Google Slides, then check that out. I did put that in our slide deck. That's going to be happening on the 12th at 9 a.m. But if you can't make that, there are some others. That interactive slides, differentiating with slides is a great one to kind of go more in depth of what I kind of just showed you. And you'll also, don't forget that you have these scavenger hunts. So feel free to try out some of this stuff on your own. The scavenger hunt is really just a guide of some of the features that I went over, or maybe even some that I didn't go over, to kind of prompt you to think about what you can do with each of these tools and each of these Google apps. And then I'm going to send you an email